Hey there, welcome to My Green Pets. You are looking at a beautiful specimen of Rhyncholaelia Aristocrat, and it's got three wonderful flowers on it and a little phragmipedium there in the foreground. We are looking around the greenhouses at Fantasy Orchids in Louisville, Colorado, in the boarding section where people keep their private collections. This is a lovely little Dendrobium country girl, and I've actually got one of these, and I can't wait to see it bloom out. This is something you don't see too often in the greenhouse. This is a Coelogyne, and it is a Jannine Banks, and it's just got a lovely, lovely white flower with this intense yellow-orange center. It kind of doesn't really do it justice on the camera, but when you see it in person, the light really catches that bright orange yellow center, and it just looks like a dash of sunlight in the snow. It's really beautiful. And then, of course, my neighbor next to me has got this outstanding Rossioglossum Rawdon Jester. I've been showing the past couple weeks, but it's all finally bloomed out now. The flowers are just so impressive, really big, wide flowers. The colors are kind of interesting, too. It's just kind of brown and yellow, and the shape, they just don't look like any other orchids that I've seen. But they don't really have a fragrance, but they are quite beautiful. Alright, let's look at My Green Pets. This is my orchid collection that I keep here in the greenhouses. And for the past couple months, really, there hasn't been a lot of things in bloom. A lot of plants have been working on new growths or putting out spikes, but finally, we are starting to get somewhere, and it looks like spring is going to be starting in the greenhouse pretty soon. Phalaenopsis schilleriana has been working on this spike since September, and it's finally reaching the final stages of development. We're seeing buds start to develop, and I've counted around 31, 32 buds on this plant. It's got 6 branches on the spike, and I just really don't know what it's going to look like once they all open up, but it's exciting to see those little buds starting to pop out, and I would say within the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, we should see our first flowers opening up. Definitely towards the end of February, the thing should be in full bloom. Bulbophyllum medusae is one of my favorite orchids, and it was poised to have a really nice show this year, but for whatever reason, the 12 or 13 spikes that it developed never really ended up cracking open. And you can see here's one that looks like it's trying to do something, but normally these bloom very quickly, so I'm kind of calling that a wash for this season. Now this is a Fredclarkeara hybrid. It doesn't have a name yet. This is an SVO hybrid. And it's been in dormancy for about a month, and it's got a nice little new growth on it, but it does not look like it's going to be blooming, so hopefully we'll see that bloom sometime soon. Mormodia jumbo world is another Catasetum type. It's a dormant orchid right now. It's covered in plastic to keep the water off of it. Its spikes have finally started to open, and it's not got a ton of flowers this year, but it's got a few, and they look nice. It's got a really very light but nice citrusy menthol fragrance, and the flowers are green with these red speckles that kind of light up in the sun. So this plant was actually given to me because the original owner didn't like the color. Something that's caused a little bit of anxiety for me is that one of my best growing Cattleya rexes has actually lost 3 leaves in the past 2 weeks, and they've been small leaves at the base of the plant, but I've just been kind of alarmed with how quickly they've turned yellow and fallen off. Another Cattleya rex that bloomed last summer was pollinated, and the seed pod has been developing since last August, and apparently it still has a 3 or 4 month wait left on it to develop that seed pod fully. But now we're kind of looking at the base of the plant to see if any new growth is going to be popping out soon for this year. A couple more Cattleya rex plants are actually mounted on hickory bark, and they've been growing on these pieces of hickory bark since they were little seedlings, and they've just really enjoyed it. I think these are actually doing the best in terms of root growth and pseudobulb growth. You can see a nice fat root pushing out. Now this one is Bulbophyllum echinolabium, and its nickname is Hal. And Hal was in bloom for well over a year. Then his spike fell off, and now he's got 2 new growths pushing out. And I'm not really sure, I've had for 6 years, and I still don't know if these are spikes or new growths. They look kind of long to be growths, but You just never know until they start to develop a little bit more. Another exciting plant. I got this one around Christmas time for at a raffle at my Orchid Society meeting. This is a RLC Jessie Lee. The clonal name is Hawaii, and you're going to have at least 6 flowers, and depending on how many are in that last sheath down there. But this is the granddaughter of the George King hybrid, which I really, really love, so I'm expecting some beautiful orange flowers. Paphiopedilum appletonianum has got a nice spike with 2 buds on it. Kind of unusual for these. Usually they're kind of single flowered. It's also got kind of a leaf growing off the top there. A little bit unusual. Looking forward to that. And a couple more of the Paphiopedilum slipper orchids. This is a Paph urbanianum, and its bud is really starting to push out the center there. And then this Paph tonsum is also pushing out a new bud. So these should be blooming in a couple of months. Just really nice to see that those are doing so well. And if you want to look into a beautiful Vanda, this is a Yano Blue, Y-A-N-O Blue. And it just has the nicest speckling in colors. So they've got those at Fantasy Orchids if you're interested. But that's it for today. I really appreciate you stopping by to check on my green pets. I will have some blooms in my collection. Hopefully in the next couple weeks we'll start to see things open up. But until then, I wish you happy growing and hope that you are doing well. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on My Green Pets. See ya.